Welcome to Thermomixing Adventures. My name is Lisa Keegan and I'm here today with the brand new book from the Mix Shop, and it's all about less waste and more food. So how good does that sound? That sounds to me like I can save more money at the checkout and get more bang for my buck. So today I'm going to show you how to actually pickle fruit, which is one of the beautiful recipes in here. Those of you who've been watching along would know that we have moved recently. My kids have planted fruit trees and we're not at that stage of abundance yet, but we certainly do like to grow our own stuff and become more self-sufficient. That's kind of the goal. So I'm excited that this book has some of these things in it. You guys would know as well, the other day I shared my mum's cucumber recipe as well, because we've got an abundance of cucumbers, you know, and things like that. So I really am excited and I like being able to, I guess, do those things myself when I can. Pickling fruit, a first for me. So I'm excited today to show you how to do it, and it is in this book. It is not on Cookie Do, so I will be doing it manually. So if you've got a TM31, TM5, TM6, Thermo, something other else, this is for you. It is actually quite simple. I will be referring to the recipe though, because it's not on guided. So first thing we actually need is some white wine vinegar. Okay, so that is quite a unique product. You can't just use apple cider vinegar or white vinegar. It's going to give you a different result. So you do actually want to have white wine vinegar. So you can get it from Woolworths and Coles, and we're going to put into the Thermomix 250 grams of this, which that's a 500 gram bottle, so it's half a bottle. You could do a double batch, I reckon. All you'd be wanting to do is actually do an extra half-time cook. So when we do a double batch, we do a 1.5 cook instead of a 1 cook. All right, so 250 grams of rice wine vinegar. No, not rice wine vinegar. What do we call it? I'm going to need to look at the instructions. White wine vinegar, that's the one. You can see I don't cook with a range of vinegars very often here. We are very basic in what we do, what we have. Apple cider and white are kind of our go-to. Occasionally rice wine when we do like dinners and stuff. Anyway, 240 is close enough. Next we need some sugar. 80 grams of sugar goes into the machine. So I'll just hit my tare button. And I don't think it would matter what type, whether it was white or raw or caster or whatever you've got. That's fine. 85, that'll do. Okay, next up it calls for a pinch of salt. Actually it says half a teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to pinch it in, that'll do. So I'd love to know, have you pickled fruit before? Is that something you are familiar with? Is it something you'd like to do more of or learn about how to do? I'd love to know as you're watching along. Now, a particular ingredient I had to go get is actually the spices. Now, it calls for whole allspice. Now, I've got ground allspice, but I didn't have allspice as a whole. I couldn't find it at the supermarket, but what I could find is a pickling spice mix. Now in this pickling spice mix is mustard seeds, black peppercorns, dill, allspice and bay leaf. Now those other ones are used for predominantly savory, not sweet. So what I want to do in here is I actually want to pick out the largest spices in there. So there are 2 round spices in there. One is peppercorns. You know what peppercorns look like, right? And the other ones that are slightly bigger and a little bit more brown are allspice. And we're dropping into there 5 allspice. It probably wouldn't matter if you accidentally dropped 1 peppercorn in. It's probably no big deal, but you wouldn't want to be putting 5 in there. So 5 allspice, and I'll just save the rest of this for my other sorts of picklings that I'm going to be experimenting with and doing. The other thing we need, last thing, is it says some sweet white wine. I reckon you could use a sweet red. I reckon that'd be lovely too, but it's going to cook off and cook down anyway. And it says 100 grams. Mine isn't overly sweet, and actually there you go, it's only 52, it's the end of the bottle. So I reckon you could just use a cooking wine. Totally up to you. Totally up to you as to what you choose to do there. I reckon even if you didn't want to do wine, you could put into it like a apple juice or something like that as well. I reckon that would work perfectly fine. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of those scales, and we're actually going to, which I need to cross out over here. Now we're going to cook this up and it's going to become, I'm going to say a syrup, but it's not a syrup. It's actually the pickling liquid. There's too much liquid in there to sugar for it to actually be a syrup. So this is not going to be as sweet as something like stewed apples and things like that, but it is going to have a bit of a vinegar undertone to it because it does have that wine vinegar in it. So we're going to cook this for, I'm just looking at the instructions, 10 to 15 minutes Varoma speed 1. Now the very beginning of this recipe actually asks you to sterilize your jar. I'm going to cheat. I'm actually going to sterilize mine in the Varoma with my cut up apples. All right, doing the standard batch. There's enough capacity in there to put in my jar and put in my lid, and it can just steam at the same time. When I come back in 10 to 15 minutes with you guys, I'll show you. We will need to use an oven mitt to pull this out and use it because it's going to be hot. It will need a wipe down at the end, but it means it's all done in one go. I didn't have to sterilize it separately. So I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm just recycling a jar, by the way, okay, an old sauerkraut jar. So whatever you've got, don't feel like you have to go buy special jars for this. And even still, some of the special jars you buy these days are not fantastic for this. Because it's got vinegar, you'll find the lid actually rusts in a lot of commercial jars these days, the ones that you buy at our local shops, whereas the ones that have had stuff in them, tomato paste jars, those sorts of things, pickle jars, they're made good quality and they actually do seal well. And if they seal well, it means we can leave them on a pantry shelf and not in your fridge, which means they last a lot longer. So I'm going to put 10 minutes on the timer. Now this time will depend on your fruit, the ripeness of your fruit. It'll depend on how big you've cut it as well. If you cut them huge, they're going to take longer to cook. You don't want them soggy. You're not looking for semi-translucent in it at all. You're looking for them still to have structure to them, but soft, okay, but not so soft that you could mash them. So we're going to put this on speed 1 for 10 minutes. I'll come back. I may need to extend the cook time. I'll give you a bit of an update on that at the end, and I'm going to show you then how to jar these up. So I'm going to leave you to it, and I'll be back soon to show you the second step of this recipe and how we jar it up. So see you soon, guys. Bye for now. Okay, the Thermomix has just gone off. It has done that 10-minute cook, and now I'm going to carefully remove my Varoma lid. Now, always remove your Varoma lid so that the steam goes away from you. Obviously, I'm behind it. It's going that way. You'd be in front. You want to lift it away from you, okay? I'm just going to lift the whole lot down and off, give it a little jiggle to try and stop the drops. Those are looking really delicious in there, and they're looking like they've lost the crunch, but amazing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my jar out carefully. Okay, we're going to put that there, grab that lid, again it will be hot too, and then we're going to get our beautiful mix out. So into our jar we're going to put our beautiful apples. The other thing to remember is these will continue to cook, so they are okay to be a little on the crispy side, because you'll find that as they cook, is that heat of the liquid that we're about to pour over goes on them, they're going to continue to cook. Okay, just now you'll notice I didn't peel mine. Personal preference as to whether you peel yours or not. They're quite warm, quite hot, and if I can't fit them all in, that's okay. The kids will happily eat them. You do want to leave a little bit of headroom at the top, because although I haven't packed them very well in there at all, I need to get something in there to move them around. There's a big gap down the side. However, that's okay. For the case of today, I'm going to leave it like that, unless I can put some more in there. Obviously, as well, the more you cook them, the more solid they are as well. The more soft they are, not solid, soft they are. So put as many as you can in a jar. Mine was just short of 500 grams. I think it started with 500 grams before the kids started taste testing. Now we're going to put our boiling hot liquid over the top. Now you are working with really, really hot liquid, so be really careful. You do want to give it a bit of headroom in there. You do not want to fill it up in past, oh, it does smell very vinegary, up past those rims there, because we do need to be able to invert it, which is what will suck the lid in and make it, that'll do, make it vacuum in, and the vacuum in is what makes it then shelf safe. So I would love those 2 bits on top to go into the liquid. However, it doesn't seem to want to be. So the other thing I could do is put some of those what were they called? Little allspice beans in there. You could also do things like cinnamon in this, or some star anise, or things like that. Nutmeg, if you'd like. You can make that however you want. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put the lid on. We're going to tighten it up. Now the jar may be sticky because you can hear that that's still loose on top. The jar may well be tacky because it was steamed over the syrupy kind of liquid. Just give it a wipe down before you put it away. You do not want to attract ants to your pantry. Now this can only be stored on a pantry shelf if that button sucks in. So from here, we invert it. And number one, you'll know if the jar leaks. So number one is going to show you if it's not sealed correctly because you're going to get liquid coming out the bottom. Number two, as it cools, if it cools and it vacuum seals, it means that little button that I was pushing on the top before, it will suck in. And you know when you open your jars and you normally hear them go pop, that is your indication that it was sealed well. It didn't have air in there, it was airlocked. So that's what we want to see here, is we want to let it cool upside down to the point that that little airlock isn't bouncing. It doesn't go pop, it's actually sucked in. If you were to open it, then you'll hear it pop. If it's actually sealed well, it can then go on a pantry shelf and it'll be fine for quite a long time. Don't ask me how long, I don't know. I'm not the right person. Those of you watching know that I use things after best before and use by dates and things like that. I would use it until I needed it, kind of thing. However, once you open it, it must go in the fridge. And if this doesn't seal, you need to put it in the fridge and you'll need to use it within a week, 10 days. All right, so it needs to be used then the moment that the air can get in there, because then it starts to lose quality. Now this can be done with all sorts of fruits. Your cook time is going to vary depending on the ripeness and what you're cooking with. Things like pineapple will cook a lot faster than things like your apple. The thing to note though is your liquid does need to come up to boiling, and your fruit does need to be softened by the time it goes in, or whatever texture you like. If you do like a bit of a crunch to it, it can still have a bit of a crunch to it. That's not a problem. Peel on, peel off, totally personal preference as well. So there you go. That is how you pickle fruit in your Thermomix. That just has to sit there and do its thing now until it cools over the next few hours, and then in the pantry it goes. So I hope you'll give this a go. I'd love to know what you have pickled or what you'd like to pickle with your Thermomix, or maybe you've done it before you had a Thermomix. What is it you've done? I would love to know your experience, and let's learn from one another. If you've got questions, do ask. Check out this book. Some of the recipes are on Cookie Do. If you want to get a hard copy of it, well, soft copy, it's a soft book, but you can go to the mix shop and check that out at the mix shop there. And just a beautiful book for getting the most out of your food, making things last longer, and using up all the veggies so there's no waste as well, which is just absolutely amazing. So have a great one. Take care. I look forward to seeing you on the next video, and let me know of any questions or how I can support you along the way as well. My name is Lisa Keegan from TMX New Ventures, and thank you for joining me. Bye for now.